On a brisk autumn afternoon in 2025, New York City's Central Park pulsed with life, its pathways alive with the crunch of fallen leaves and the hum of a diverse crowd. Bethesda Terrace, bathed in the amber glow of the setting sun, became a stage where ordinary lives intersected with the extraordinary. The air carried the scent of roasted chestnuts from a nearby vendor, mingling with the faint strains of a violinist serenading passers-by. Amid the kaleidoscope of movement, a story began to unfold, one that would ripple far beyond the park's iron gates. Zara Thompson, a passionate and aspiring actress, stood at the center of a small tour group, her voice a blend of authority and warmth as she recounted the park's storied past. Her presence was magnetic, her words infused with a determination born of navigating a world that often underestimated her. Clad in a vibrant scarf that hinted at her creative spirit, Zara's dreams of breaking into the acting world seemed as vivid as the autumn leaves swirling around her. Yet, her path was one fraught with obstacles, and today, those challenges would manifest in ways she could not yet imagine. Nearby, Officer Mike Brennan leaned against a lamppost, his sharp eyes scanning the crowd. The years had etched lines into his face, each one a testament to a career spent patrolling the city's streets. Yet beneath his stoic exterior lay a history of decisions that had quietly drawn criticism, whispers of bias that never quite reached the surface. His gaze lingered on Zara, his expression unreadable but charged, as though some unspoken tension had taken root. Unbeknownst to them, Samuel Chen, a high school student with a knack for capturing fleeting moments, had chosen this spot for his latest photographic venture. His camera, a constant companion, clicked with precision as he documented the interplay of light, shadow, and human emotion. Samuel's perspective, unfiltered and sharp, would soon become a lens through which the world would view the events about to unfold. As Zara's tour reached its crescendo, a figure emerged from the crowd, Leonardo Dicaprio, his casual attire doing little to mask his unmistakable presence. The actor moved with a quiet purpose, his eco-friendly tote slung over one shoulder, its contents a mystery. He had come to Central Park seeking connection, but the universe had other plans. A sudden commotion near the fountain drew his attention, a confrontation between Zara and Officer Brennan that crackled with tension, the air heavy with unspoken histories and unexamined biases. The crowd began to gather, their murmurs blending into the city's symphony. Phones emerged, their screens glowing as they captured the unfolding scene. Samuel, ever the observer, adjusted his focus, his lens zeroing in on the raw emotions etched across each face. Leonardo hesitated, the weight of his celebrity clashing with his instinct to intervene. And Zara, her voice steady but strained, stood her ground, her words a defiant stand against the injustice she felt pressing down on her. In this charged moment, the lines between the ordinary and the extraordinary blurred. The terrace, once a backdrop for leisure, became an arena where questions of privilege, prejudice, and accountability clashed with the urgency of the present. As the sun dipped below the horizon, its golden light fracturing into shards of crimson, the stage was set for a reckoning. What began as an autumn afternoon in Central Park would soon ignite a conversation that neither the city nor the nation could ignore. The story unfolds in the sprawling, sun-scorched expanse of the Ashen Wastes, a post-apocalyptic desert world where remnants of ancient civilizations lie buried beneath shifting dunes. The air is thick with metallic dust, and jagged ruins of skyscrapers pierce the horizon like broken teeth. Scavenger towns, built from salvaged scraps of metal and stone, dot the landscape, their inhabitants eking out survival amidst the desolation. The sky is perpetually tinged orange, a result of the atmospheric damage from a centuries-old war that left the world in ruins. At the heart of the story is Kale, a young scavenger with a knack for finding rare artifacts buried deep within the sands. Kale's wiry frame and sharp eyes are a testament to years of survival in the harsh environment. Haunted by the disappearance of his sister, Lyra, when they were children, Kale's primary motivation is to uncover her fate. His only clue is a fragment of a map etched into a mysterious metallic shard he found years ago. Kale's companion is Rin, a former soldier turned mercenary with a mechanical arm powered by ancient technology. Rin is gruff and pragmatic, but beneath the hardened exterior lies a deep sense of loyalty to Kale, whom he views as a younger brother. The antagonist, Saran, is the enigmatic leader of the Obsidian Order, a shadowy faction obsessed with harnessing the lost technologies of the old world. Saran's motives are shrouded in mystery, but her actions suggest a dangerous ambition to reshape the world according to her vision. She is calculating and charismatic, with a commanding presence that inspires both fear and devotion among her followers. As Kale and Rin venture deeper into the ashen wastes, they uncover secrets about the world's past and their own intertwined destinies. Their journey begins with a single goal but soon spirals into a fight for survival against forces far greater than they imagined. Amid the golden hues of autumn in Central Park, a heated confrontation between a passionate tour guide, a veteran cop, and an unexpected Hollywood bystander spiraled into a flashpoint of racial tension and public scrutiny, as a young photographer's lens captured the unfolding drama, revealing buried truths and igniting a storm of justice and accountability that would ripple far beyond New York City. The small town of Alderwood buzzed with excitement as the annual Harvest Festival approached. For years, the festival had been a symbol of unity and celebration, but this year, it carried a deeper significance for three unlikely allies. Clara, a fiercely independent baker, dreamed of using the event to showcase her pastries and finally secure the funds to open her own bakery. Lucas, a reserved botanist, hoped to unveil his experimental hybrid plants and gain recognition in the scientific community. Meanwhile, Mia, an outgoing journalist, saw the festival as the perfect backdrop for her breakthrough article on the town's evolving traditions. Their paths crossed when they discovered the festival committee had drastically cut funding, leaving participants to fend for themselves. Clara, Lucas, and Mia decided to pool their resources and work together, though their differing personalities quickly led to friction. Clara's perfectionism clashed with Lucas's methodical pace, and Mia's relentless energy often left both of them exasperated. Despite their differences, they realized their goals were interconnected. Clara needed Lucas's plants to decorate her booth, Lucas relied on Mia's publicity to attract attention, and Mia required the other's success to enrich her story. As they prepared for the festival, unforeseen obstacles emerged. Clara's oven broke down days before the event, threatening her ability to bake. Lucas's plants began wilting due to an unexpected cold snap, and Mia faced backlash from a rival journalist who accused her of sensationalism. These challenges forced the trio to confront their vulnerabilities and lean on one another in ways they hadn't anticipated. Amid the chaos, smaller subplots began to unfold. Clara and Lucas discovered a shared love for late-night stargazing, while Mia's investigative instincts uncovered a deeper mystery about the festival's funding cuts. These moments of connection and revelation hinted at the possibility of something greater than their individual ambitions, setting the stage for a story of resilience, trust, and unexpected camaraderie. The morning began like any other in the quiet town of Ashford. The streets hummed with the familiar rhythm of routine, shopkeepers unlocking their doors, children rushing to catch the school bus, and the faint aroma of freshly baked bread wafting from the corner bakery. For Emma Carter, a local journalist, it was just another day of chasing mundane stories, until her phone buzzed with an anonymous tip. The message was cryptic yet urgent: "Meet me at the old train depot. Midnight. Bring no one." At first, Emma dismissed it as a prank. But as the day unfolded, strange occurrences began to pile up. The mayor abruptly canceled a long-anticipated press conference, citing unforeseen circumstances. Police cars sped through the streets without explanation, their sirens piercing the otherwise tranquil air. Even Emma's usually reliable sources were uncharacteristically tight-lipped, evading her questions with nervous glances. The town's routine had been disrupted, and Emma's instincts told her this was no coincidence. Unable to shake her curiosity, Emma decided to investigate. That night, with a flashlight and a notebook in hand, she ventured to the abandoned train depot. The structure loomed in the moonlight, its rusted beams and shattered windows exuding an eerie silence. As she stepped inside, the sound of her own footsteps echoed ominously. She was about to turn back when a faint voice called her name. It wasn't just the voice that startled her, it was the fear laced within it. Before she could respond, a shadowy figure emerged from the darkness, clutching a folder stuffed with documents. "They're watching," the figure whispered, thrusting the folder into Emma's hands. "You have to expose this before it's too late." The figure fled before Emma could ask any questions, leaving her alone with the folder and a chilling sense of urgency. As Emma flipped through the papers, her heart raced. What she uncovered wasn't just a story, it was a conspiracy that threatened to upend everything she thought she knew about her town. The crisp air of Central Park buzzed with unease as the confrontation near Bethesda Fountain unfolded. Among the growing crowd, a new figure emerged, Elena Martinez, a middle-aged Latina journalist for a local online publication known for spotlighting social justice issues. She had been walking her dog when the commotion drew her attention. Sensing a story, she quickly secured her terrier to a nearby bench and began taking notes on her phone, her sharp instincts already piecing together the significance of the unfolding events. Meanwhile, on the outskirts of the terrace, a street performer named Malik, a young man in his early 20s, paused mid-performance. His drumsticks hovered over the upturned buckets that served as his makeshift drum set. Malik, a former foster kid who had turned to music as an outlet, felt a familiar pang of frustration watching the scene escalate. He abandoned his performance, weaving through the crowd to get a closer look, his presence adding another layer of tension and curiosity to the gathering. As Leonardo attempted to de-escalate the situation, Zara's tour group began to splinter. Some members, uncomfortable with the confrontation, quietly slipped away, while others stayed, their faces a mix of concern and outrage. Among those who remained was an elderly couple, the Johnsons, who had come to New York to celebrate their 50th wedding anniversary. The husband, a retired civil rights lawyer, instinctively stepped forward, his voice calm but firm as he addressed Officer Brennan, invoking legal precedents that seemed to momentarily disarm the officer. Nearby, a group of teenagers on a school field trip whispered among themselves, their teacher struggling to maintain order. One of the students, a girl named Priya, discreetly began live-streaming the incident on her phone. Her followers quickly multiplied as the video gained traction, sparking a flurry of online commentary that ranged from support for Zara to criticism of the officer's actions. As the sun dipped lower, casting a golden glow over the terrace, Samuel continued to document the scene. His lens caught fleeting moments of humanity, the worried glance of a mother shielding her child's eyes, the clenched fists of a young man barely restraining his anger, and the quiet determination etched into Zara's face. Each frame told a story, capturing the raw emotions of a city grappling with its conscience. Amid the chaos, a park worker named Ahmed, an immigrant from Egypt who had spent years maintaining the park's beauty, hesitated before stepping forward. He offered Zara a bottle of water, his small act of kindness cutting through the tension. His presence, though understated, reminded those watching of the quiet, often overlooked contributions of individuals who kept the city running. As the confrontation reached a boiling point, a sudden gust of wind carried the sound of distant church bells, their chimes mingling with the murmur of the crowd. The moment felt charged, as if the city itself held its breath. Each character stood poised on the edge of action, their choices about to ripple outward in ways none of them could yet foresee. The tension at Bethesda Terrace thickened as Officer Brennan's voice grew harsher, drawing the attention of passers-by who edged closer, their curiosity giving way to concern. Zara, her voice steady but her hands trembling, stood her ground, refusing to let the officer's accusations go unchallenged. The tour group, once captivated by her storytelling, now exchanged uneasy glances, unsure of how to intervene. Among them, a young mother clutched her child's hand tightly, whispering reassurances, while an older man adjusted his glasses, his expression a mix of disbelief and anger. Leonardo, now fully recognizable despite his earlier attempts to blend in, stepped forward, his calm yet commanding presence cutting through the chaos. "Officer," he began, his voice measured but firm, "I think we can all agree this situation needs clarity, not hostility." Brennan turned sharply, his eyes narrowing as he registered the familiar face. For a moment, his authority wavered, but his pride refused to yield. "Stay out of this, Mr. Dicaprio," he barked, his tone defensive. The crowd murmured, their phones capturing every word, every gesture, as the confrontation spiraled further. Samuel, darting through the growing throng, positioned himself for the perfect shot. His lens caught Zara's defiant gaze, Leonardo's outstretched hand, and Brennan's clenched jaw in stark contrast. But it wasn't just the faces that told the story. In the background, a woman in a wheelchair struggled to navigate the crowd, her frustration palpable. A street musician, who had been playing a haunting melody moments before, now stood silent, his violin dangling at his side. These details, fleeting and easily overlooked, painted a broader picture of a city grappling with its own fractures. As Zara spoke again, her voice rising with conviction, she invoked not just her rights but the rights of every person who had ever been unjustly scrutinized. "This isn't just about me," she declared, her words cutting through the din. "It's about the assumptions you make, the power you wield, and the harm it causes." Her words struck a nerve, not just with Brennan but with the crowd, whose murmurs grew louder, more impassioned. Among them, a young woman wearing a t-shirt emblazoned with the phrase "No Justice, No Peace" raised her fist in silent solidarity. Meanwhile, Leonardo's dilemma deepened. He knew his involvement could amplify the moment, but at what cost? His publicist's warnings about staying apolitical echoed in his mind, yet his instincts screamed otherwise. He glanced at Zara, then at Brennan, and finally at the crowd, whose eyes bore into him with expectation. Samuel's camera clicked incessantly, capturing the actor's internal struggle as clearly as the unfolding drama. Brennan, feeling the weight of the crowd's judgment, faltered. His grip on authority was slipping, and with it came a flicker of doubt. Memories of past confrontations, buried but not forgotten, surfaced unbidden. For a brief second, his gaze softened, but the moment passed as quickly as it came. "Back away," he ordered, his voice cracking slightly, though whether from anger or uncertainty, no one could tell. As the sun dipped lower, painting the terrace in hues of amber and violet, the scene reached a boiling point. Zara, Leonardo, Brennan, and Samuel stood at the heart of it, their lives colliding in ways none of them could have predicted. The crowd, now a living, breathing entity, seemed to hold its collective breath, waiting for the next move. And in that charged silence, the first seeds of transformation began to take root, though no one could yet see the shape they would take. The confrontation at Bethesda Terrace escalated as Zara's voice, steady but resolute, cut through the crisp autumn air. Her words, laced with both frustration and dignity, challenged Officer Brennan's baseless accusations. The crowd, initially hesitant, began murmuring in solidarity, their collective energy shifting from passive observation to active support. Leonardo, now fully recognizable despite his efforts to remain inconspicuous, stepped forward, his calm yet commanding presence momentarily diffusing the tension. His voice, familiar to millions, carried a surprising weight as he addressed the officer, invoking the principles of fairness and accountability. Samuel, heart-pounding, adjusted his camera to capture every nuance of the scene. Through his lens, he noticed Zara's trembling hands clutching her notebook, a subtle but powerful testament to her resolve. He also caught Brennan's fleeting expression, a mix of anger and uncertainty, as the officer realized the growing scrutiny of the diverse crowd. Samuel's photographs, taken with precision and empathy, would later become pivotal evidence, but in this moment, he felt the gravity of his role as both an observer and a participant in history. As the sun dipped lower, casting golden light across the terrace, Zara's impassioned words began to resonate with those gathered. She spoke not just for herself but for countless others who had faced similar injustices. Her eloquence, sharpened by years of rejection and perseverance, turned the confrontation into a rallying cry. Leonardo, visibly moved, echoed her sentiments, using his platform to amplify her voice rather than overshadow it. This unexpected alliance between a rising actress and a global icon added a layer of complexity to the unfolding drama. Officer Brennan, confronted by the weight of public scrutiny, faltered. For the first time, cracks appeared in his hardened exterior. His defensive posture softened, and a flicker of doubt crossed his face. Whether this moment would lead to genuine introspection or a doubling down on his biases remained uncertain, but the shift was undeniable. The crowd, sensing the possibility of change, grew bolder, their voices joining Zara's in a chorus of solidarity. Amid the commotion, a young girl from the tour group stepped forward, clutching the discarded flyer for the upcoming civil rights exhibition. She handed it to Zara, who glanced at the bold headline, *Artist Resistance, Stories of Struggle and Triumph. The symbolism was not lost on anyone present. Zara's gaze met Samuel's, and in that silent exchange, a shared understanding passed between them. Their roles in this moment were far from over. As the first evening stars began to emerge, the scene reached a turning point. Leonardo, Zara, and Samuel stood at the center of a rapidly growing movement, their actions rippling outward in ways none of them could yet comprehend. Officer Brennan, now visibly shaken, was left standing in the shadow of a city that demanded accountability. The confrontation had ended, but its impact was just beginning to take shape, setting the stage for the seismic events that would follow. As the confrontation unfolded, the tension in the air was palpable. Zara's voice, steady but charged with emotion, echoed across the terrace. "I've done nothing wrong," she asserted, her words carrying the weight of countless similar encounters endured by others. Officer Brennan, his hand hovering near his belt, seemed torn between asserting authority and the growing awareness that eyes, and cameras, were on him. The crowd pressed closer, an unspoken collective demand for accountability rising like a tide. Leonardo stepped forward, his calm yet commanding presence momentarily diffusing the intensity. "Officer," he began, his tone measured but firm, "perhaps we should all take a moment to de-escalate." His words, though diplomatic, carried an unmistakable challenge. Zara glanced at him, recognition flickering in her eyes, but her focus remained on holding her ground. Samuel, crouched low to capture the scene, noticed a subtle shift in Brennan's posture, hesitation, perhaps even doubt. From the edge of the crowd, a voice called out, "Leave her alone." It belonged to an elderly woman clutching a cane, her weathered face lined with indignation. Her words emboldened others, and murmurs of agreement rippled through the gathering. Zara's tour group, initially frozen in shock, began to speak up as well, recounting what they had witnessed. Each voice added weight to the moment, creating a tapestry of solidarity that Brennan could no longer ignore. As the officer stepped back, his expression a mix of frustration and resignation, Zara seized the opportunity. "This," she said, addressing the crowd, "is why we must keep fighting. Not just for me, but for everyone who's ever been silenced." Her words resonated deeply, drawing nods and murmurs of support. Leonardo, visibly moved, reached into his bag and handed Zara one of his handcrafted tokens, a small wooden carving of a tree, etched with the word resilience. Samuel's lens captured it all, the tension, the unity, the fleeting moments of vulnerability. But it also caught something else, a young officer in the background, watching Brennan with a conflicted expression. Later, that same officer would come forward with a testimony that would add a surprising twist to the narrative, exposing a culture of silence within the precinct. As the crowd began to disperse, Zara and Leonardo exchanged a quiet word. "This isn't over," she told him, determination blazing in her eyes. "I'll make sure of that." Leonardo nodded, his own resolve solidifying. "Neither will I." Nearby, Samuel reviewed his photos, his heart pounding with the realization that his work could shape the story's trajectory. The discarded flyer from earlier caught his eye, and he snapped a final shot, a symbolic reminder of the broader fight ahead. Unbeknownst to them all, a journalist in the crowd had been live-streaming the entire incident. By the time the sun dipped below the horizon, the confrontation had already gone viral, sparking debates across social media and in newsrooms nationwide. What began as an ordinary afternoon in Central Park had become a flashpoint, setting the stage for alliances to deepen, truths to surface, and a city, perhaps even a nation, to reckon with its conscience. As the sun dipped lower, casting a fiery glow over the park, the confrontation intensified. Zara's voice, unwavering yet tinged with frustration, cut through the murmurs of the growing crowd. She stood firm, her every word a testament to the resilience she'd cultivated in the face of systemic barriers. Yet, her strength was met with Officer Brennan's escalating hostility, his tone betraying an inner turmoil he could no longer suppress. The tension between them became a magnet, drawing the crowd closer, their expressions a mix of outrage, curiosity, and fear. Leonardo, now fully recognized despite his attempts to blend in, stepped forward, his presence commanding attention. His calm yet assertive demeanor momentarily disrupted the officer's aggression. "Let's de-escalate," he urged, his voice steady, though his eyes betrayed a flicker of unease. Zara glanced at him, her expression a mixture of gratitude and weariness. She knew the stakes. This wasn't just about her anymore. The cameras, the crowd, the celebrity intervention, all of it was amplifying the moment into something far larger than herself. Meanwhile, Samuel's camera clicked relentlessly, his lens capturing not just the confrontation but the emotions etched into every face. Through his viewfinder, he noticed something others missed, a small, crumpled note falling from Zara's pocket as she gestured. He zoomed in, the words barely legible but resonant, "Never let fear silence you." The phrase struck him deeply, a silent reminder of his own struggles with invisibility in a world quick to overlook voices like his. He knew his role wasn't just to document but to amplify, to ensure the truth couldn't be ignored. The crowd's murmurs grew louder as conflicting emotions rippled through the onlookers. Some called for calm, others for accountability. Among them, a young woman stepped forward, clutching the discarded civil rights flyer. Her voice trembled as she addressed the officer, the crowd, and even Leonardo. "This isn't just about today," she said, her words charged with urgency. "This is about all the times we've been ignored, dismissed, or worse. Enough is enough." Officer Brennan's jaw tightened, his grip on his authority slipping as the weight of the moment bore down on him. Flashes of his past misdeeds flickered in his mind, unbidden and unwelcome. He glanced at Zara, at the crowd, at the cameras. For the first time, doubt crept into his stern facade. Yet, the fear of losing control kept him rooted in his defensive stance, his pride warring with a growing sense of unease. As the wind picked up, scattering leaves and amplifying the chill in the air, Zara seized the moment. "This isn't just about me," she said, her voice rising above the din. "It's about all of us, about what kind of city, what kind of country, we want to be." Her words struck a chord, rippling through the crowd like an electric current. Even Leonardo, accustomed to scripted speeches, felt the raw power of her authenticity. In that charged moment, the threads of their lives pulled tighter, weaving a tapestry of conflict, courage, and possibility. The stage was set for decisions that would test their convictions and reshape their futures. As the final rays of sunlight disappeared, the terrace became a crucible where the weight of history and the promise of change collided. The confrontation at Bethesda Terrace reached its boiling point as Officer Brennan, his voice sharp and unyielding, demanded Zara produce identification. Zara, her hands trembling but her voice steady, cited her rights with precision, refusing to be intimidated. Leonardo stepped forward, his calm yet commanding presence cutting through the tension. "Officer," he said, his voice firm but measured, "perhaps we should all take a moment to reassess what's happening here." His words, coupled with the growing crowd's murmurs of disapproval, forced Brennan to pause, his authority visibly wavering. Samuel, unnoticed in the chaos, captured a pivotal moment, Zara holding up her tour guide badge, her expression a mixture of defiance and vulnerability, while Leonardo stood beside her, his hand extended in solidarity. The image, framed against the golden hues of the setting sun, would later become a symbol of unity and resistance. Brennan, aware of the phone's recording his every move, hesitated. For the first time in years, the weight of accountability pressed down on him, forcing a flicker of doubt to cross his face. As the situation de-escalated, Zara turned to the crowd, her voice carrying a newfound strength. "This isn't just about me," she declared. "It's about everyone who's ever been judged unfairly, everyone who's been silenced. We have to do better." Her words ignited applause, and Leonardo, inspired by her courage, pledged to use his platform to amplify her message. "This stops here," he said, addressing both Brennan and the onlookers. "Not just today, but every day." Brennan, visibly shaken, muttered an apology before retreating, leaving Zara, Leonardo, and Samuel standing at the center of the terrace. Samuel lowered his camera, realizing he'd captured more than just a photograph, he'd documented a turning point. As the crowd dispersed, Zara exchanged a quiet nod with Samuel and Leonardo, an unspoken agreement to keep pushing for change. This moment, born of conflict, ended with a call to action, to confront injustice wherever it arises, to hold those in power accountable, and to stand united against prejudice. The fight for equality demands not just witnesses but participants. Will you answer the call? The confrontation at Bethesda Terrace became a defining moment, not just for those directly involved, but for a city grappling with its identity. Zara's poised yet impassioned response to Officer Brennan's unjust scrutiny sparked a wave of solidarity among the onlookers. Leonardo, stepping fully into the role of advocate, used his platform to amplify Zara's voice, urging the crowd to remain peaceful but vigilant. Samuel's photographs, capturing every nuance of the encounter, would later ignite a firestorm on social media, forcing the city and the nation to confront uncomfortable truths about bias and privilege. In the days that followed, the ripple effects of the incident were profound. Zara, thrust into the spotlight, became a symbol of resilience and a vocal advocate for systemic change, balancing newfound fame with her dreams of acting. Leonardo leveraged his celebrity to support her cause, organizing a high-profile fundraiser for racial justice initiatives. Meanwhile, Samuel's photos gained widespread acclaim, earning him a scholarship to a prestigious art school and cementing his role as a documentarian of truth. Officer Brennan, facing public backlash and internal review, was forced into early retirement. Yet, in an unexpected twist, he began attending community workshops, a tentative step toward unlearning the prejudices that had defined his career. The incident also galvanized the city. Conversations about race, privilege, and accountability erupted in homes, schools, and workplaces. The art exhibition Zara had promoted, now featuring Samuel's photographs, became a focal point for dialogue and education, drawing record crowds. Bethesda Terrace, once a passive landmark, transformed into a symbol of collective action, with activists gathering there to honor the moment that had sparked change. This story serves as a reminder that ordinary days can carry extraordinary potential. It challenges us to act, whether by speaking out, listening deeply, or capturing truth. As autumn gave way to winter, the leaves may have fallen, but the seeds of change had been planted, ensuring that the lessons of that day would endure far beyond the season.